Hey there everyone, welcome back to another gaming news video. As always, I'm Cat the Beefy with the Game Vault, and we've got a few different things to talk about today. Let's cue the music and we'll get right into it. Alright, first off, Dragon Age the Veilguard. We haven't talked about this for a while. This game was one of the biggest flops from last year. The classic dark fantasy game that was ruined by identity politics and modern day social issues. The game that had a non-binary character and top surgery scars for you trans players out there. It was absolutely ridiculous, and it was a complete and utter failure. It probably destroyed the Dragon Age franchise for a decade, if not more. And it seriously hurt BioWare, cost them some jobs and all that. The director, Corinne Bush, who's a dude actually named Andrew, I think, if I remember correctly. I can't keep track of all these clowns. Ended up leaving the company, and I believe they headed over to the new gaming studio that is working on the next Baldur's Gate project, which is not Larian. Larian gave up on Baldur's Gate. I guess they had some differences with Hasbro there, or Wizards of the Coast, whoever you want to talk about. Skeleton Key or something like that, I believe, is the name of the new studio. So they're going to be heading up the next Baldur's Gate. So if you were a fan of Baldur's Gate 3, you can expect Baldur's Gate 4 to be a hot, steaming pile of orc crap. Well, anyway, let's talk about this. Dragon Age: The Veilguard's Alex Wilton Reagan is absolutely devastated by backlash. But you notice Alex Wilton Reagan is not surprised. Let's read this article a little bit. Let's be honest, when Dragon Age: The Veilguard launched, the discourse wasn't just divisive, it was a full-on digital witch hunt. Now, despite a solid critical reception, the game was drowned in the noise of a toxic corner of the gaming community hell-bent on watching BioWare burn. Now, one of the studio's most recognizable voices, Alex Wilton Reagan, the actress behind the female Inquisitor, how dare you mention a binary thing there, anyway, has stepped into the fray to say what a lot of us have been thinking. Some people were gunning for this game to fail from day one. Let's stop real quick and talk about this. First off, if it was just a toxic corner of the gaming community, this game would have been a raging success, okay? Overwhelmingly, this game was rejected by gamers overall. Normies, normal people, gamers, everybody hated this game for a lot of reasons. Now, I will admit, I didn't play the game, and I refused to play this game. I'm not giving them $1 towards this game. I actually got it for free through the PlayStation Plus, and I considered playing it just to make fun of it. And I was like, you know what? I don't even want to add my number to the number of players to this game for PlayStation, even though it's free. So I decided not to do that. I was going to do a series on it and just, kind of roast the game as I played through it. Now, visually, the set pieces are great looking and all that. I'll admit to some of that, but the character design is awful. It's got this new aesthetic that I see all the time with these weird cartoonish, characters. They look terrible. I don't know who they're trying to appeal to here. It's the Concord, Avowed, this upcoming, they all have this weird look to them. It's not cool, Maybe it's the new cool. Maybe I'm just old now, and this is what people find cool. And if it is, well, y'all are a bunch of dweebs. But yeah, character designs were terrible. The voice acting was, oh man, it was atrocious. And if you even just the whole politics and all that, the scripting was terrible. Even if you just anything I heard of it, it just sounded like it was written by teenage girls, and it probably was, based on the way this industry is anymore. It was just absolutely atrocious. But in an interview with IGN, Wilton Reagan didn't hold back. Absolutely devastated was how her reaction was to the reception. She praised the Veilguard as BioWare being more BioWare, and yeah, she's not wrong. The narrative focus, the branching choices, the character-driven drama, it was all there, but that didn't stop parts of the internet from nuking it with downvotes and hot takes before they even touched the damn thing. Not parts of the internet, most of it. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Review bombing. The Veilguard was hit hard, not because the game was broken or badly made, spoiler it wasn't, but because it dared to reflect the real world, non-binary characters, trans options, queer representation. It was labeled woke. As a result, on Steam and now languishes under the mixed review banner, shackled with tags like LGBTQ+. That's a shackle? I thought you guys promoted that kind of stuff. I thought that was a banner, a flag, a moment of pride, not a shackle, but oh, it's become a shackle. Interesting. and politics, as if inclusion is a negative feature. Wilton Reagan put it bluntly, people were attacking the game before it was released. It's ridiculous. You can't judge art before it's actually released. It's an idiotic stance. Sorry, Alex, you're wrong. Okay, first off, the game, maybe it wasn't broken or badly made, but daring to reflect the real world, okay, that doesn't have a place in a game like this. Nobody wants that in dark fantasy. Nobody wants that in their games. You play a game, a fantasy game. It's called fantasy for a reason. I guess you guys live in fantasy world. The woke community lives in fantasy world, so they don't understand the difference between fantasy for their own selves and a fantasy game and escapism, right? They just want to blend the two together so they can, quote unquote, be seen or represented and all these other nonsense terms that they talk about. And it's kind of crazy. But yeah. And talking about LGBTQ plus as a shackle is interesting because, like I said, I always thought it was a point of pride for you guys. So, but it's not an idiotic stance. People have opinions. Okay, Alex, even if they don't agree with you, they have opinions, and you can downvote a game for whatever reason you want. It's the internet. This is your ability. You can downvote a game because you don't like the way the game is played. That's fine. You can downvote it because it doesn't work, it crashes and all that. That's fine. You can downvote it because they added microtransactions after release. That's fine. That's legitimate. You can downvote it because you don't like the inclusion of real world politics and social issues into it. And that's fine. These are all legitimate reasons to downvote a game. I don't want that in my game. And I'm glad people downvoted because of it. I'm glad people brought light to it because I would not want to play that game. I'd be pissed if I bought this game as a normie and didn't know anything about it, and I got in there and now all of a sudden they're talking about non-binary issues and my character wants to be trans. I'd be pissed. I'd be livid. I'd be like, what is this garbage doing in my game? It does not belong here. But yeah, so she acts like she's surprised. It's the pearl clutching and all that. It cracks me up. It's like you knew going in what this was going to do. You knew how people were going to react to it. What you didn't realize is that your little loud corner of the internet, that little toxic corner of the internet, that's the woke community. That's not gamers as a whole. So, maybe you guys realize where you are now in the grand scheme of things, and we'll stop seeing trash like this released. Speaking of trash, here's something that is not trash at all, and that's Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade was this surprise hit from Shift Up Studios, a Korean studio, and it was huge. Absolutely huge. And it got a lot of backlash. Why? Because the character was actually attractive. People that promoted the game were called gooners and made fun of because, you just want to, wank off while you're playing the game and all that kind of stuff. And it's silly. Attractive people sell things and make things better. That's why when you look at Hollywood, actors and actresses are generally very attractive by conventional standards. Same thing with advertisements. This is all pre-woke era. Okay, this woke era that we live in now. But they were always very attractive. You looked at Victoria's Secret, and they had these beautiful models, these tall, thin models. They're gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. You look at the old Sears catalogs, and they were pretty moms, and and good-looking children, and nice, clean-cut dads, and stuff like that. Everybody looked great, and everybody looked nice, and the TV shows and all that. People looked good. If you wanted a villain, you got someone that was ugly to play the villain, by conventional standards. And no insult to Danny Trejo, but he played a great villain because he was rough, he was tough, he was craggy, he was not conventionally good-looking guy. Love the guy, I love his acting and all that, and I'm not being, I'm no looker myself. I play a villain all the time when I do my films because I'm not a conventionally good-looking guy. So I get it, we all have our roles and things. I wouldn't sell you anything, other than, I don't know. I wouldn't sell you anything other than maybe a security system for your house, Anyway, Shift Up has pretty much confirmed that Stellar Blade 2 is in the works, although they haven't revealed how revealing it will be. I don't know what that means. But so it's coming out on PC, we know, in June. It's getting a new update we found out recently with the Nikki DLC crossover. Nikki's another game that comes from Shift Up. So that's going to be kind of cool. It features some new character outfits and whatnot. as well as a new boss fight. Scarlet, I believe her name is. I think she's another character from Nikki. We're also getting a new boss fight with the PC release, and it has been confirmed that that's coming to PlayStation as well, which is where this game cut its teeth and became so big. 25 new outfits, all kinds of new stuff to it. So this is a game that has been hugely successful, and it didn't play into the politics of things. It didn't play into the identity politics. People loved it for its gameplay. It had, it had your typical, people called it a Souls-like, I guess. I call it an action game. With the parrying, the dodging, the fighting, the moving in to take your hits when you can, backing up, and so forth and so on, drinking your potion when you can. Now, yeah, you did recharge it in between fights at little like camps and stuff like that, similar to the Souls-like game. So I get it. I get the comparison. But it's a lot more forgiving than a Souls game, so to speak. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we're looking forward to that. They're saying that it could be out before 2027, which would be kind of cool. Hopefully they continue with their success. Shift Up Korea has done great as far as helping gaming keep its momentum and putting out some quality games. And surprisingly, China's done the same with games like Black Myth Wukong and more. These guys are picking up the slack where Western studios are putting out garbage like Dragon Age to Veilguard and Avowed. So hopefully our Western studios are looking east and seeing what's successful when we get back to that, because quite frankly, we're tired of this. And let's talk about real quick, we're, off subject here, but, Black Myth Wukong, the character was not an attractive character either. So you couldn't make fun of that. And it was still successful, and it wasn't a gooner game. It was just great gameplay and all that. And it didn't have the woke crap in it. Although there were some side characters, I guess, that were somewhat attractive. So now Doom the Dark Ages. Doom is the child I love that everybody else hates, it seems. Not everybody hates it. It's done well as far as reviews and so forth and so on. I've seen a lot of, and I'm not talking about your standard IGNs and crap like that I have no trust in. I've seen a lot of people give this game great props and all that. YouTubers and stuff that really love it. Personally, I love the game. I've always loved Doom, but I'm partial and biased, Doom could put out pretty much anything and I would enjoy it to some extent. When it's all done, and I look back, then I'll have a more honest opinion of it, when it's all said and done. But for now, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I'm almost halfway through it. I'm taking my time because I'm doing 5-6 series at once, making me crazy. But Doom the Dark Ages tunables, aka balance changes so far. This is from Doom itself, their Twitter account. Like with Doom Eternal, we'll be updating Doom the Dark Ages with occasional balance tweaks as needed based on feedback and observation. Sometimes we make these adjustments in a patch and we'll provide release notes on slayersclub.com. We also have a system that allows us to push value updates to existing game data without the need for a patch. That's kind of cool. We call these tunables. Similar to release notes, we will maintain a list of active tunables here. We cannot fix more complex systemic, content, or code-related bugs with tunables. Those changes require a patch. So these are some of the tunables that have been adjusted recently. On 523, adjustments to make the Hell Knight's arms tougher to sever when using a pulverizer. They lowered Skull Crusher Ravager damage against bosses and Komodo. They reduced how long certain health and armor drops linger in the world in a boss fight, a certain boss fight. Took out the redacted the name. Reduced how long health drops linger in the world when in the Atlan, and rebalanced the Atlan final boss fight. Again, they redacted the spoiler. Update from 2020 or 522. After a week of observing you play and hearing your feedback, we felt the game needed to be a bit harder overall, especially on Nightmare difficulty, so a tunable pass was made live yesterday. More specifically, they buffed damage. This is all about Nightmare difficulty. They buffed damage to certain attacks for the following enemy AI. Agadon Hunter, Cosmic Baron, Hell Knight, Komodo, and Pinky Rider. They wanted the threat of these enemies to be increased and have higher impact when in the field, especially on certain damage scalars and difficulty settings. As an example, on 250% damage, which is the Nightmare difficult, missing a parry on the Agadon Hunter's overhead slash will now break your shield instead of simply doing a lot of damage to it. They also adjusted certain player forgiveness systems to be less generous across most of the damage to players ladders, 100 to 500%. There are systems under the hood that are designed to give players a better chance to survive when near death, and those systems are being too generous. Players were able to brute force their way through situations that should have resulted in costing a life sigil or death, and we want to make sure that they're keeping the player in check and asking for better tactical decisions. These changes will have an impact on player survivability and will be more notable or more noticeable the higher up the damage scale or slider you go. They're going to do these updates regularly and all that. That was one of the complaints, is that Doom was a little too easy for players, and that frustrated a lot of players. Too slow, too easy, too many cutscenes. That was another complaint I've heard. People didn't like the dragon, they didn't like the Atlan, and all of these are legitimate, right? These are all legitimate beefs that people have with the game for various reasons. I guess, like I said, because I've had such a long history with Doom, the first one came out when I was 23 years old and I played it to death. And I've, pretty much followed the game for the most part throughout its whole history. I'm a little more forgiving, and I appreciate the fact that id tried some new stuff here, that they tried the Atlan and the dragon. The Atlan's fun. It's clunky, it's slow, and it's not very complex. There's not much to it. It's pretty brainless. I'm glad I've only used it once so far in the game. Like I said, I'm in chapter 10. I have a feeling I'm about to use it again because of, well, I won't say anything just in case you haven't been that far, but I have a feeling I'm about to use it again. But the first one was a fairly short mission. It was like a 15-minute walkthrough mission, and it was fun. Like I said, it was slow, it was clunky and all that, but whatever. The dragon, on the other hand, is cool. It takes a little effort to get used to it, but once you get used to it and how the combat works with it, it's not so bad. The tutorial was a little bit of a drag, but flying around the city, the holy city, and taking out a couple turrets and landing, that was fun. I enjoyed that kind of stuff. It was just a little breakup of the game to get you from point A to point B. Gave you a little bit of combat, nothing really big, not a big deal. It's not like you're fighting for an hour. You're not fighting demons flying around very much. I mean, there was the occasional big supersized demon that I killed, but that was it, but a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, for the most part. So we'll see if these things help out at all. Hopefully they do. I looked at SteamDB, and yeah, the game peaked at like 30,000 players. I don't ever think we're going to see it go above that on SteamDB, but be kind of curious to see if it ever releases some sales figures on it to see how successful it was. Doom's too big to die off of one game. So, they might post-launch add some stuff to it that's missing that people really want. I know they didn't want to focus on multiplayer. They wanted to focus more on the campaign because multiplayer was never big on Doom. Some people ask for multiplayer. Of course they do. Everybody wants multiplayer in every game, and not every game's great for multiplayer, although Doom does have potential if it's done right. Speaking of cool games, though, Atomfall. So apparently Atomfall 2 discussions are already underway. They say Atomfall's unexpected success has prompted discussions of a sequel due to its profitability, which is great. DLC, sequels, and spin-offs are being considered for Atomfall with a focus on future content. The game's been well received, offering an immersive world with the potential for more content in the future. So one of the surprise releases of the year has got to be Rebellion's Atomfall. The action game from the Sniper Elite developer shocked many since it deviated from titles the studio is known for with a very ambitious game. If you're hoping for more Atomfall, you're in luck, as it seems the sequel is already being planned. I did a full review on this if you want to check it out here on the channel. It's, my opinion, it's honest. It's completely spoiler-free. You're not going to get any spoilers in there. And the brief rundown is I enjoyed the game quite a bit. It was unique. It had systems in there that were handled differently than many other games. I mean, nothing's 100% new anymore, but this game felt very refreshing, especially in this modern era of games where everything's coming out and it's so easy to play everything. Everything's been dumbed down so much and made to be, I don't know, it's so overly accessible to people. And I have no problem with accessibility. I'll tell you that. High contrast modes, stuff like that. I get it. People have different challenges in life that they need to overcome to play. And if more people can play a game because they put something in like a high contrast mode or bigger text on the screen for, conversations and stuff like that for subtitles, great. That's wonderful. These things are fantastic. Highlighting things out in the world to make it easier to find them, making it a little, damage sliders, even damage sliders and stuff like that is cool because maybe, your little brother can play the game and he's a little young for it. He doesn't quite have the the skill level yet. So you can say, well, you know what, Billy, let me make it a little bit easier for you. Instead of just a basic easy mode, hard mode, regular mode, it's kind of neat. Like, we'll go back to Doom, for example. You can make the game faster or slower. You can make the projectiles that are shot out do more or less damage and stuff like that. So you could really fine tune that game and create something unique for yourself. You can, so those who think the game's too slow, make it a little bit faster. If it's a little too hard or you're struggling in one area a little bit, maybe knock the damage down a little bit. You don't have to knock it down too much. You can adjust the parrying on the game to make the window a little bit larger. The basic parrying window's, quite frankly, huge. This game is not going for a Souls type thing, with Doom. But in any case, so there's a lot of adjustments you can do with that. So I love that kind of stuff with these games. And Atomfall, getting a second game is going to be great. They talk about DLC 2 here. I got the deluxe edition of the game, and it did say some future story content was coming. So apparently there's already some planned DLC for the game. So hoping to see what that is. Beat the game once already. I would not mind, like, if the DLC comes out, especially if it's a significant DLC, I would gladly start a second playthrough just for the fun of it. Because now that I have a full understanding of how this game works and what you need to do to get to the end of it, I know it wouldn't be such a wandering mess the second time around. It'd be a lot quicker just getting through the game and being able to hit that DLC, whatever it is, that new storyline, and checking it out and see how it relates to everything else. So that'll be cool. Looking forward to Atomfall 2 if and when it comes out. Speaking of sequels, Borderlands 4, Randy Pitchford. Remember like a week ago when he said, real fans will spend $80 on Borderlands 4 and everybody got pissed? The whole internet exploded. It's a big thing right now. Nintendo started it. Xbox, Microsoft is continuing the $80 base price for a game. And it's, quite frankly, making everybody angry. And then Randy Pitchford, said something about the real fan comment. And now he's kind of walking it back a little bit. But leading up to that, $70 is pretty much the standard for a AAA title right now. And most AAA titles don't deserve it lately because they're not delivering a AAA experience. Or in the case of Skull and Bones, a quadruple A experience. Yeah, I got to crap on Ubisoft every time. But not only is there a $70 game, there's usually a $100 game, a $100 variant of it, or a $90 variant of it that gives you a couple days early access, some extra skins, future DLC, depending on what it is. There's usually a package offered that's a higher price, and it could be $20 more, $30 more, whatever. It could be significant. I think, again, going back to Ubisoft, the Assassin's Creed Shadows was a $70 base game, if memory serves. Then they had like a $120 premium game. That's a huge difference. Now, it did include future DLC and all that, but still, wow, that's a lot, right? We're getting into what a few years ago would have been a collector's edition price tag for just a digital game. So, but yeah, Randy Pitchford made everybody mad. So, but now he's sort of gotten frank over his controversial comment. Gearbox Software boss Randy Pitchford has been in the news for all the wrong reasons again after claiming that a real fan would buy Borderlands 4 even if it did ask for $80. It's not really the promotion a looter shooter could use 4 months before launch, especially since everyone from a Baldur's Gate 3 developer to fans across the internet slammed his tone-deaf remarks. So Pitchford has now slightly softened his position in the most Randy Pitchford way possible by reacting to an AI-generated Handsome Jack version of the same real fan quote. Boy howdy, Jack GBT, is that how I sound? The executive magician tweeted. In seriousness, though, nobody likes being taken for granted, and it was not my intent. I'm humbled by the love and support everyone has shown the team as we push hard to get this amazing game in your hands. They're crushing it, and I can't wait for everyone to play what's going to be the best Borderlands ever. Regardless of where the price lands, it's going to be worth it, and then some. Back to work for me. In other words, shut the hell up, Randy. So, yeah, I'm humbled by the love and support everyone has shown the team. So basically, he's glossing over the fact that everybody started slinging crap at him for all this. And That's what, there wasn't a real apology in my opinion, but whatever. It's fine. I wasn't planning on getting the game anyway. Borderlands never really appealed too much to me. The aesthetic of the game is kind of like, I don't know. I don't like that art design. That it never really appealed to me. And from what I've seen of this new game, it looks pretty bland. The characters look pretty bland. People are not very happy with it. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Is it going to be worth the $80? Let me know what you think about this whole $80 thing. Sony still has not gotten on board with the $80 game thing. For $10, for the price of $10 per game, I get it. If you sell 1 million games, that's an extra $10 million in your pocket. That's a lot of money. But how many sales are you losing as opposed to making? And I don't know, man. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Everything's gone up in price. People want to blame this, that, and the other thing. They want to blame tariffs and all that. Well, why are digital games going up in price then? If you want to blame tariffs, then why aren't digital games still $70? And, that's the way it really should have gone in this industry. And that was the intention in the beginning with digital downloads, was to save money in production and pass that savings on to the fans and the players, where digital versions of games would be a little bit cheaper. But then they realized, well, why should we do that when people will still spend $50 for either a physical copy or not? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. They need to, this could be a time when they really push for digital, and that would push more people into the digital realm, which is a whole other argument. And a lot of people don't like digital copies, and I get why. Last but not least, let's talk about my cheating girlfriend Ark Survival Ascended. 10 years, surviving 10 years, the community crunch. So we're very, very soon, we're going to be seeing the 5.5 upgrade. And not really sure how that's going to impact things. They've shut down updates on mods in the meantime because things can change and go crazy. A warning to anyone who plays Ark out there: if you're using something to cryopod your creatures, is not the basic cryopod, I'd be a little concerned right now because we don't know what's going to happen. Remember the recent apocalypse where everybody lost their creatures that were in cryopods. So one thing we're doing on my community, in my cluster, is everybody's going and making regular cryopods and putting all their creatures in regular cryopods, just in case something fails with this new update and it makes the SCS pods kill creatures in them, whatever. There's a million things that could go wrong. The creatures could just disappear, whatever. I have half a mind to shut down my cluster for a week when 5.5 comes up, just to see if we can get things under control and then open them back up so we don't lose everything. But I don't want to do that to the guys, but it's a real thought in my head on that. I'm like, well, maybe we should do that. But what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up podding up all my guys. It's going to take forever. Hobbit's already offered to help, so is Miss Beefy. Now we're going to pod them all up, and I'm going to leave a couple in the SCS pods just to see what happens. Some creatures that can be sacrificed, extras, whatever. And if they survive, then we'll know, all right, everything can get put back. It's going to be a monster ordeal. The Titanosaurs that we bred up for boss fights, they're not going to be able to go into pods, so I'm going to have to find a home for them. The Oasosaurs we bred up for resource production, they're not going to be able to go into pods, so I'm going to have to just hope that I'm going to leave 2 out. I'll leave 1 out. I can always clone it. And, hope that the ones in the SCS terminal don't die. So there's going to be some finagling going on there. But, yeah. So the 10th anniversary is here, right around the corner. It's going to start on June 2nd, run until June 12th. And they're going to be running an event that's got some new rates, PvP, small tribes and apocalypse rates, a new creature called the Party Dodo. It's going to offer some skins, the birthday suit stuff, the party hat for dinos and people, and, of course, the Torch Sparkler skins coming back. New items like cakes, a couple different consumable cakes. This is interesting. A taming cake slice, a breeding cake slice, an imprint cake slice, an XP cake slice, and a harvesting cake slice. So, obviously, each one of these, you're going to eat them, and for a certain amount of time, it's going to improve. Or maybe your dino is going to eat them, and is going to improve something for either you or your dino for that. A couple new emotes, DJ Party and Rave Dance. New chibis, they're all party versions of the Dodo, Rex, Saber, Pego, and Ankylo, and Kylo. And then some wild dino colors coming out. Other than that, nothing new. No more talk of the bison this week, which is good. I got kind of tired of the bison. It looks like a cool creature, though. I will admit that. No talk of Ragnarok, so we can only assume that they're still on target for, what is it, the 22nd now or something like that? I forget. Somewhere later. Should be coming up soon, but now we got to wait almost a full month still, or waiting a full month. There's a lot going on with Ark. Not all of it's good. I pray 5.5 fixes a lot of issues for this game, because this game is seriously suffering. Wild card and snail games and all that, I don't know, man. They kind of botched this whole thing. A lot of it was through lying to us as players, the gaming base, not meeting their deadlines, reusing old code and just importing it instead of rewriting it like they said they did. Had you told me you used the same old code, I'd be like, all right, I get it, But the fact that you told me it's all new and then we have the same problems, I know you lied. I don't know how to read code, so I can't look at the two side by side or anything like that and say for a fact, but I know you lied to me. There's no way you rewrote everything and we have the same problems that we had back with the first game, Then there's all the pricing issues and all that. The microtransactions that have popped up since then with, or macro transactions in some cases, like Bob's Tall Tales, the Fantastic Tames, the upcoming release, which I guess we'll be able to pre-order soon. For what, another $30 or $40, something like that. It's getting quite expensive, so we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for the best for Ark. We're still playing it. We're playing the Omega mod right now, which is a lot of fun. It kind of breathes new life into the game. Patiently awaiting Ragnarok, which we're going to do a Naked and Afraid series on that one, where everybody just joins in, and we're not bringing any creatures, any items, or anything like that over. So it's going to be starting from scratch. We'll keep our characters, though, our leveled up characters, which will make it a lot of fun. We'll see what happens there. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to ring that bell for notifications. I'll see you next time. Until then, peace.